All right, let's get Facebook in here and we can officially start the show. Get rocking and rolling. One's kind of being persnickety. There we go. All right, welcome in. It is the first. Welcome in. December, Christmas month is here, holidays, whatever you celebrate. And the Broncos in first place in the AFC West, and I think still with tiebreakers, the entire AFC until the Patriots play tonight, and maybe still in first after that. I'm Nick Kendall, joined by Eric Trickle. This is Broncos for Breakfast. Eric, happy once again. Victory Monday. The Broncos now winners of 9 in a row this season, and they just finding new and I don't want to say excruciating, but maybe a little excruciating to watch. Different ways to win. First overtime victory of the season, and boy, obviously don't love how the Broncos looked against a rather poor Commanders team on the whole, but at the end of the day, you keep stacking wins, and you're going to go pretty darn far. So not here to make excuses. How are you doing? How was your Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Obviously, I'm a little tired, even though I did actually get to bed earlier than normal last night. And Thanksgiving was mostly good until the end of it, but it's all fine. But with this Broncos team, like we've mentioned it before, and I've seen a lot of people, other analysts and Broncos reporters stuff say this is like you can't keep winning games the way the Broncos are, and yet they keep doing it. Like they keep finding some way to overcome whatever issues they are having. In this one, it was questionable play all around, and they just managed to make the plays when needed to walk away with the win in it and in overtime. And it's in a sense, it's almost unbelievable with how much it's happening of them just pulling out these unlikely win after unlikely wins. But I'm with you. It's disappointing that they didn't go in and handle business a little bit better against this Commanders team, especially the defense. The offense, the Commanders offense, man, credit to Cliff Kingsbury and Marcus Mariota. They just knew exactly how to attack this Broncos defense, and they had no answer for it. But as for attacking the Commanders defense, this was not that it was a badly called game by Sean Payton, but this was the first game where his stubbornness really showed, to where he was just calling plays that he liked for his offense instead of trying to attack where the Commanders were really weak at fairly consistently. And it led to a lot of issues with them. And then, still the run game, that's going to be a problem. Penalties, that's going to be a problem going forward. It's been a problem all season. Both those have still got to try to figure out some answer with that. But with 5 games left, it's unlikely at this point to say that they're going to find some answer for those.
Yeah, I will say, to be fair to them, the final penalty count, the timeliness was not good on a lot of them, but 5 for 33 yards is, we'll take that based on, we've seen him in the hundreds multiple times this season for yards. So, or, 7, 8, 9, maybe even a double digit penalty game out there. So
to be fair though, with this is a reffing crew that lets them play. They are the lowest, penalizing referee group in the NFL by far.
You could feel it.
And there was some obvious things. And the biggest thing is like, it's just the moments of when they happened in this one is the biggest thing, as you touched on.
Yep. And that's one reason I like EPA. If you only have 5 penalties, but they are huge ones that put points on the board or take points off the board, guess what? It's going to reflect EPA more than just what the count is. But let's say hello to folks coming in here as we start the show. Again, not to be too negative, Denver 10-2 on the season, first place in the AFC. Colts drop a game. The Giants got a chance to beat up the Patriots tonight, I think. We'll see. It's hard. And I don't want to come in here like, is how the Broncos playing sustainable? No, they're like, I understand, like, we like to play the victim a little bit and be like, oh, nobody respects us, and you are what your record says you are, but Denver does have questions. It's fair. I think everybody in the AFC does. But at the same time, at some point, you have to cross the Rubicon of like giving them credit for continuously beating the teams they should. And even if it feels, maybe a little fluky, like they keep doing it. We just saw the Rams travel across the country and get beat up, against a very aggressively mediocre Panthers team, right? And Denver, coming off the bye, East Coast game, finding out ways to win. That's got to count for something. And you know what always counts for something? Everybody coming in, dropping a thumbs up on the way in, a heart react, all of that, like, subscribe, share, and just leaving a comment. We got David Youngkin. All I want to know is what the heck the defense was supposed to do, letting the Commanders offense get a 3rd and 25, one of VJ's worst outings. Yeah, the Mariota was playing really well. Denver did not do very well against the run game on the whole, and the Commanders in like a lot of key statistics, 3rd down, first downs in general, the red zone, they were, like you said, Eric, hat tip to Cliff Kingsbury. This is one of the first times in multiple seasons I feel like I come out being like, yeah, VJ lost the head-to-head coordinator matchup, and credit to them. Kingsbury has done a really good job and getting that ball out quick. There's also a couple matchups we want to get into that I thought were typically you don't see the Broncos lose as thoroughly as they did, but we'll get into it. We got Jake. Good morning, Broncos country. Happy Victory Monday. Game was too close for comfort last night. Hopefully win a few more without stress. I don't know if that team has that. I mean, has it in though. They've won 4 or 5 games in a row, one possession games. Those typically are coin flips long term, but also, I mean, the teams that end up holding hardware at the end of the season have runs like this. You know, you have to stay healthy and you have to let the ball bounce your way in those 1-score games or turnovers a few times. And right now, it seems like Denver is favoring those. So hopefully they can take advantage of it. And they're not a great team yet, but their record is allowing them to be a great team at some point this season. If they're 10-2, I wouldn't call them great, but they'll have that chance. Dave Glassman, good to see you. Football team will be the death of me. Yeah, this is some of the key stats. Commanders 3 for 3 on 3rd down, 8 for 17 on 3rd down. I mean, that's not getting it done for what the Broncos' identity is this season, but we'll get into it. Gatorade Gaming, great to see you. Good morning. What's good? Appreciate you coming in and saying hello. We got, hey, Shirt Brother. Do you watch that? I think you should leave skit show. Okay. That's probably my favorite one. The Shirt Brother one kills me. So good to see you, Shirt Brother. Appreciate you coming in. Hope you're doing well. We got James. Run game is very concerning for a deep playoff run. That seems to be in sight. We're not the game I expected against the 3-8 Commanders team, but a win is a win. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's probably my biggest offensive. Well, not my biggest offensive takeaway, but like the run game is concerning. Eric, they had maybe one explosive run on the night where I think it was Bidet. But talk out of both sides. It was not Bidet. It was McLaughlin.
It was Harvey maybe? on the first run of the game.
Oh, okay. There was another one later on too, where they did a power run on like a 1st and 10.
That one was McLaughlin.
Okay. What I will give them some credit for. So obviously the stats at the end of the day, not great. They didn't really push the run button too hard, but 87 rushing yards on 23 rush attempts compared to 45 dropbacks. I personally don't love that. 3.8 yards per carry, but getting 2 rushes in the red zone for touchdowns for Harvey. So they do have a little bit in them, right? Like those were well blocked, well designed run plays in the red zone. We haven't seen that so much from this Broncos team this season. It feels like a lot of times Sean Payton likes to push the pass button on the goal to go opportunities, but run game, yeah, for a deep playoff run, I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal. I would like to see, on that note, I would like to see Bidet get a little bit more run as a actual running back. He only has 2 carries on the season for 9 yards, but McLaughlin, he's barely played, and he's in the last 2 games he's had 1 good run and the rest have been nothing. RJ Harvey is now, has the 4th lowest success rate in the NFL for running backs with over 60 carries. And I mean, this was a more successful game for him, but he only ran the ball 13 times and he had 4 successful runs. You can't live with that kind of lack of consistency running the ball going forward with this team, especially when you want to make a run late and you want to secure that number 1 seed and you want to make a run in the playoffs. You can't live with that on this offense because it's the way those runs came. The explosive run by Harvey. Well, that was a jumbo package. You had 2 tight ends, a fullback, and an extra offensive lineman out there. The one by McLaughlin, guess what? 2 tight ends, a fullback, an extra offensive lineman out there. That can't be the only way you're getting explosive runs with who you have. And I don't know whether it's just, going even more simple with what you're calling in the running game or trying to find a piece elsewhere. I mean, they made a run at Dameon Pierce, but obviously he chose the Kansas City Chiefs over them. They got to do something to figure it out because it is hard to win in the playoffs if you don't have a running game you can fall back on.
Yeah, and I said it, I think, on Friday. I'm not typically the make excuses for the quarterback position, but with the run game as impotent as it has shown to be post J.K. Dobbins, I don't want it to be all on Bo Nix. Like he had a good game versus Commanders. The fourth quarter, a little shoddy. It was a reverse Bo Nix yesterday. First 3 quarters were pretty good in overtime. Good. So he just saved it for overtime. But yeah, overall the run game is concerning. Although I'm guessing they're still probably going to have to try to make a run. And I thought the offensive line didn't have the best game either. I thought Deron Payne won his matchup pretty darn consistently. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that one, Eric, but 94 was in the backfield in the run and the pass. Fairly consistent, mucking things up for the Broncos. Quinn didn't have the best game, not the best push down from the offensive line in general. McGlinchey looking like he's false starting, but hey, Laremy Tunsil can get away with it, then I guess McGlinchey can too. But see David Youngkin's back from the hospital. Good to see you, David. Casey acting why are we acting like they lost? I feel like we're pretty even. It's just, Monday morning, kind of just, I'm not ripping my shirt off here, but they won. And wins are not given in the NFL. So maybe we should be a little bit more, jazzed up for it. I'm jazzed up for Perry West coming in, though. 27 super chat saying, thought it took too long for VJ to go heavy on defense to slow down the run. A win is a win. Yeah, did you see any adjustment in there from Vance Joseph from the first half? I mean, overall, Mariota played a great game. Terry McLaurin, they made some tough catches down the field, and a little bit of a hat tip too. My biggest not non-schematic takeaway from the defense, Eric, was maybe it's coming off the bye week or something, but we need to tackle better. This was a very poor tackling game all around. A lot of them felt like they were tackling with their arms down, going for the big hit and not wrapping up. And there goes Rodriguez or McNichols or Mariota for an extra 5-10 yards. That happened 6 times in this game, something like that. It was a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it was missed tackles and lack of discipline. Often Jonathan Cooper, constantly giving up his rushing lane to, try to get after the quarterback. And there goes Marcus Mariota. That happened like 3 times for a first down. You can't have that. You can't have the missed tackles. There early in the first quarter, especially the big runs that the Commanders were getting was off of missed tackles. Somebody was hitting the running back in the backfield, just not finishing the play. And there they go for 6, 7, 8+ yards. And happened all throughout the first quarter. Tackling was an issue. Talanoa Hufanga, I don't know if it was him being sick. He was not great. He was at fault for a lot of those missed tackles. And then going back to talking about the penalties, he had that really bad penalty on what should have been, the game clinching play. But coming into this game, one thing that I talked about on Friday night especially, was all season long, teams coming off the bye have looked rough this year across the NFL. And Denver, they came off the bye and they were looking rough. And Sean Payton coached teams typically, even though he's like, I think he's like 13-4 after the bye now or something like that. They've always looked a little bit rough coming out of the bye. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the way that they structure the bye week and, giving time off and stuff like that or what, but there is something with Sean Payton where his teams look rough, still managed to win, and they managed to win this one, but it was just a rough showing all around. I don't think any one element was great all game long. I think they had some good elements for most of the game, but they just so many issues that, again, even in the win, and it's great that they won. They needed this win. They're in a position where they control their own fate. They just got to keep winning games. They got to figure out these issues going forward. And you would hope that coming off a bye week, you wouldn't take a step back, so to speak, with where some of those issues were coming into the bye week and, coming into the game.
Yeah. Again, at the end of the day, the Commanders had a bye week as well, and they gave the Broncos a heck of a run, but Denver did enough to win. So shout out to them. They didn't lose the turnover battle. And the defense playing maybe their second worst game of the season, third worst game of the season. Feels like in every single game where the defense has struggled, it's been Bonitto having a very tough matchup, and that's going to happen sometimes. But I've always said the defense goes as PS2 goes, but maybe it goes as Bonitto goes, because when he gets somewhat blanked out from the pass rush department against a great tackle, whether it be Joe Alt week 3, whether it be obviously you had Andrew Thomas in the Giants game, and then this one, Laremy Tunsil played great. I don't know if you noticed at the end. I think Laremy Tunsil was being so good in his matchup, they flipped Bonitto to the right tackle a lot in the fourth quarter overtime, which is not not typical of them to do. They like to have
It's
him off the.
been more typical over the last few weeks, though. It's
Okay,
been
all
almost
right.
an even split with Bonitto on both sides.
Really? Okay,
Yep.
I'll have to go back and watch that because it felt like they didn't have that much, and on a lot of like key downs, it was him over the left tackle, and Tunsil was winning the matchup. And Tunsil, a lot of penalties, but a very good player all in all. But Perry, thank you so much for the $27 super chat. Very, very generous. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Appreciate you. And yeah, Denver did enough in the end, but really a lot of it is like tackle, right? Like I just feel like there was a lot of leak yardage in this one, and VJ definitely had his number. Cliff had VJ's number for a lot of the game. David Cromwell says the fact the Broncos barely got by against another lesser opponent tells me they only win one more game down the stretch. What do you think? I think that they're still playing. Let's say that the 50-50, one-score game stuff comes into play here. Maybe they go 500 down the stretch. I don't think they will. I think the defense, despite what we saw in this last game, is still too good to do that. But only win one game down the stretch would be catastrophic. And again, Denver, even their losses this season have been heartbreaker, one score, last play of the game stuff. So winning one down the stretch, I think, is far-fetched, David. I know you like to be negative on the Broncos prospects, but I don't think that's, barring injury. I think worst case, you're talking 500 down the stretch, but I would bet better than that.
Yeah, I think at worst down the stretch they go 3-2. Just because one of them is you never know what's the case is going to be for that. Maybe 2-3, I guess is two. I should say, because that final game, that fifth game of it, we don't know what the status is going to be. And against the Chargers, maybe it's a game where Denver decides to rest some of their starters because they have the number one seed clinched up by that point, or they're the clinched as a second seed, or whatever the case may be. It may be a situation where the rest of their starters and the Chargers may need that game to secure the playoff spot. Don't know, but I think between over the next 4 games, I think at worst they're going 2-2. Whether it's beating the Chiefs and the Raiders and losing to the Jaguars and the Packers, or other way around, or whatever, I think they go 2-2 at least over the next 4. I don't think it's. I understand they just struggle to beat a bad team in the Commanders, but any given Sunday, first of all, we just saw the Panthers beat the Rams. Does that mean the Rams are now going to struggle down the stretch? Probably not.
No.
Some teams just have those bad games. I think that we'll start to see the Broncos, hopefully anyways, bounce back a little bit. I think the defense especially will, go back more towards what we've seen of them typically, although it is a bit concerning that the Commanders may have put out, the blueprint and how to move the ball effectively against this defense, and it's on Vance Joseph to go and, find answers for it. But if they lose one game down the stretch, I would bet that they got beat up, that they lost a couple of key players to injury, and just, it's not the team that took the field against the Commanders is taking the field regularly throughout over the last 5 games because of injury. That's the only way I see one happening.
Yeah, one at a time. And I know the Raiders are a bad team, but Denver, plays, somebody said in here, plays down to their competition. It feels like a lot. So division games, who knows? Shiloh, good to see you. Good morning, everyone. Also, for Bonitto having a tough time as a pass rusher, did want to give credit, and people in the chat holding me to it as well for that last play. I mean, was it Eckler or whoever it was, McNichols? I think Eckler was out, wide open on that drag there, and Bonitto made a play, and the Broncos win the game because of that. So shout out to him. It did the big thing when it mattered. But he had, and the pass rush in general had not a very good game from the Broncos, and that's been the best thing this team has going for it this season. It's been the identity of the team, and when they aren't, creating as much pressure or the havoc plays, the sacks, QB hits, and everything, defense didn't look as good. Surtain coming back looked a little rusty. Shout out to Moss until that last play. I thought, that one touchdown, what are you even going to do? God bless. Good luck, man. Sorry, no matter what he does, he gets posterized. It's just like I feel bad for him at this point. But that last play on the overtime or the fourth quarter, whatever one it was, that was bad. But other than that, I thought he had an okay game. We got M1ST4J coming in. So I understand the issues. I really don't think it's downgrading like this. The Commanders played a hell of a game. Plus our pass rush were held pretty much. Were held so much with no calls. I didn't see too much obvious holds. I think there were a few here or there, but I think the Broncos had some too. I think some like questionable, like that one. I'm like, holding your fist tight. Is that a PI or the flag coming out? No. Okay. So, I felt like the reffing wasn't egregious. And you mentioned, Eric, the timing of the Broncos penalties was bad. The Commanders, while Denver only had 5 penalties, 3 of them gave first downs on the day. So got to figure some of that stuff out. But again, no excuses. A win is a win is a win. You've won 9 in a row, and it's hard to win in the NFL. And shout out to Sean Payton. I don't think the media at large will give the Broncos credit for winning the games they're supposed to, but they keep doing it. So, I mean, it counts for something, right? Like even the sample size is starting to get large enough now, and maybe it all comes crashing back down the next game or next season. But for now, you're freaking 10-2, so that counts.
Yeah, I mean, with the refereeing, I don't think. I mean, there was missed calls on both sides. On the overtime touchdown by the Commanders, there was a missed offensive pass interference call. On the fortunately, Bonitto blew it up, so it didn't become an impact on it. But there was a very egregious and obvious pass interference off the pick to get McNichols opened up on that 2-point conversion attempt. Where I mean, the receiver didn't even try to hide it; he full on squared up and just body checked Hufanga. And then holding, it wasn't bad. Like there was a couple missed calls on both sides of it. I think the most egregious missed holding call was on the Broncos, and I'm pretty sure it was Alex Palczewski, might have been Garrett Bowles, but they basically like horse collared yanked the defensive lineman when he was trying to turn with the play, and it's again going back to what I was saying earlier about with the penalties too. With this reffing crew, they like to let them play, and I have no issues with that. Obviously, there's times where it's like, okay, this was a pretty big impact on the play. That's something that they really like to go for. That's why there's so few penalties typically with them. And there's a couple of them where it's like, okay, that had a big impact on the play. Throw the flag on that one. And then there's a couple times where they threw the flag where the impact wasn't super major on the play. But it is what it is. I think overall, this was probably one of the more balanced games in terms of the reffing that the Broncos had played this season, and not simply because they only got called for 5 penalties, but it was just when they decided to let them play, and all the penalties they called except for like one on the Commanders was really obvious. I don't get the false start illegal formation one on McLaurin there late in the game.
Yeah, you hope the Broncos defense plays better than this going forward. What was it, 3rd and 25 or 2nd and 25, and they end up getting the first down on a 4th down, going 3 for 3 on 4th down, 3 for 5 in the red zone. Luckily, the defense's baseline this season is so much better than this. We should expect better play, and they have a get-right game coming up, fortunately, against let's just call it what it is, a Division II caliber, the lower Premier League, or not the Premier League, whatever it is, relegated soccer teams leagues. But the Raiders offensive line is the worst in football. I think we can say that pretty definitively. So get right game for the defense coming up here, as long as you can blank out Brock Bowers, which is easier said than done, of course. But with the offense playing the way it has the last 2 weeks for the most part, I think that's fine. And yet some of the offensive statistics too, like the overall count numbers aren't great, but the Commanders ran, how many plays did we have in this one for the Commanders? 85 plays to the Broncos 69. So, I mean, gosh, almost 20 more plays for the Commanders in this one. That's not a Broncos issue per se. That's a defense issue on this one. And to Jaron's point, Bo Nix did throw the terrible interception. And I mean, you guys, if you've listened to me long enough, you know that I am not a Bo Nix, panderer by any means. But I'm glad we don't have to be sitting here talking about that one bad play, because I thought for the most part, Bo Nix played a pretty good game. Now, was he escaping the pocket a little too early on some of them, missing some plays? I think so. Chris Collinsworth pointed out one very early, an easy first down, guy wide open, and he's booting to the right and hitting the check down. So have to go back and watch the all 22 and see guys that are open if he's bailing when just before giving up on the pattern. But overall, I thought he had a pretty good game, and he made some pretty immaculate throws as well. That touchdown was incredible. So I know some people said Mahomesian. Don't compare my quarterback to that demon by any means, please. But no, yeah, Bo Nix had a B+ game. Was he out there like superstar, Super Saiyan? No, that's not all on him. Also, the weapons down. You also need your weapons and everything getting open downfield for that. But I thought he played another very good game, and that's stacking 2 in a row, which is what we've been asking for on here for I mean, since he was first game as a rookie, stack multiple games in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it was a rough fourth quarter from him, but I mean, it was a rough fourth quarter from the offense in general. But he, again, as you said, he had a really good game. This was probably, you know, one of the better games he's had this season, where things weren't going perfectly all around. I mean, so that's taken out the Bengals and the Cowboys game where just everything was clicking, or the run game was going. Like, this was one where the offense had to go through the air, and he was able to handle that pressure. And a couple plays, I mean, the interception was one. There was a couple times, as you said, where he bailed the pocket early. The one where it was I believe it was a screen that they were setting up, and he just decides to go with the screen instead of hitting Pat Bryant over the middle. There was another throw where he just stared down the receiver. Unfortunately, the defender wasn't able to make a full play on the ball, but was able to break it up. So there was still some rough moments, but this is one of those games where, you know, as you said, stacking good game after good game. It's what he did. You know, still room for improvement, and just got to keep focusing on getting to the steps. But this isn't a game where you look at the offense and think, man, Bo Nix is part of the reason why they were so rough. It just wasn't one of those games. He was one of the bright spots with this offense where there weren't a whole lot of them throughout the game.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that Sean Payton, especially in this game, started to use the pass game to substitute the run game because the run game wasn't really finding down-to-down footing. But I hate these splits of 45 dropbacks to 23 rush attempts. Now, I'm okay, you know, every once in a while, especially if you're playing from behind. But for the most of the game, the Broncos were in the lead. I'd rather it be closer to a 55-45 kind of split. But, you know, it is what it is in the end. You got to call with what's going on. And right now the run game is struggling some, of course, but doing enough. And it was good to see Bo Nix utilize his legs a few times, but very efficiently. That's what I like. You know, only 2 rush attempts, but that run for 11 yards that he got where he tucked it up the middle, good game for him. And he looks spry and a good athlete. And I know that everybody's been calling for Bo Nix to run more. I like it more as a break glass in case of emergency. I don't need him getting CJ Strouded, who missed 4 or 5 games with a concussion. Every time you run, you put yourself out there. I know it's football at the end of the day, but break glass in case of emergency if you can. For me, we got Lord Deer saying, hate the negativity. It's coming from us. I'm sorry, Lord. I mean, it is a win. We're just kind of, you know, like going through it right now. And I feel like we're pretty even. I don't know if it's even negativity, but we're not saying they're terrible. It's just defense had a down game. Good to see you. But Kingsbury had a good game for this one. And Denver looked a little rusty, but they got it done in the end. And we've said it on the show a lot of times, Eric. I mean, if Denver comes out of this game with a lot to work on tape and review, but it's a lot better to do on a flight home, happy flight, if you will, and coming back to the facilities today, tomorrow, and seeing the tape on a win. So feeling good, survived. Every single Super Bowl team has had survival games. You can go back to 2015 where the Broncos survived on the road against Cleveland, who I think was the worst team in football that season. The Chiefs last year, I know they got throttled in the AFC, but how many games were they surviving against mediocre teams? You need games like, you need the ball to bounce your way and to win games like this for it to be a special season. And so far for the Broncos, it's set up that way for this to be a special season. But they got things to work on to beat the upper echelon teams. Sidebar, if there is an upper echelon team in the AFC this season.
Yeah, I don't think there is. Like, it is a weird year in the NFL. It's a weird year in the AFC especially. And one of those things, and it's something that we've talked on before, is those 1-score games. I mean, we talked about the Chiefs last year, and the year before they were 12-1 in 13 1-score games there for a while, spanning into next season, and they're 0 for 6 this year, 0 for 7.
They won one. That Colts game was a 1-score. Yep.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Colts game. So yeah, they have that 1-score game win, whereas the Broncos, have all those wins in the 1-score game with those 2 losses. So it's sometimes that's all it comes down to. You gotta survive. You gotta eke out those wins, and sometimes you got to get through the regular season, and then you just are able to turn things up in the playoffs. And hopefully that's Denver. Like, if they want to get to that point, though, they have to work on those things and work on, get that running game, work on the penalties, find that consistency with offense. Because one thing against this game that does go on the offense was their inability to sustain drives at times.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it was, as soon as the Commanders got the ball in overtime, I just knew that they're going to go down the field and they're going to score a touchdown. And whether they went for 2 or not at that point, I wasn't sure. I felt that going for 2 was the right call. That's what they did. But it was just so obvious how exhausted the Broncos defense was. There was a point where they showed Zach Allen hands on his hips, slightly bent over, and he was just breathing hard. And Denver wasn't able to generate much pressure up front because the pass rush retired. They were just exhausted. So you got to be able to sustain drives on it. And one thing, going back to what that comment was with the Kingsbury facing this defense, I'm not buying that because this isn't the defense Vance Joseph was running in Arizona. It is extremely different from what he was doing there. And part of that is because of the talent that he has. He wasn't able to do a lot with the coverages and the looks up front because he didn't have the players that here in Denver that he has in Denver. He didn't have them in Arizona. It's nowhere near the same defense. And if you go back and watch Vance Joseph's defense when he was defensive coordinator in Arizona to what he's doing now, they are almost polar opposites. He was still very aggressive with blitzing, but it just in terms of coverage usages and stuff like that, very different, almost night and day.
Yeah, we got Denver Luke coming with a coffee emoji. Before we started the show, I hadn't even had any coffee in my system yet. So shout out to you, Eric. We're gonna get you drinking coffee here pretty soon. I feel it. It's coming. Maybe you're gonna have to be a white monster guy or something. I don't know. We got David Youngkin coming in. Eric, what do you think the offseason will look like? Well, pardon me. I'll sit back. I felt myself early in the show where I was like on a 5-minute diatribe. So go ahead, Eric. What do you think about the offseason?
I think Denver's going to be very aggressive looking for another offensive weapon or two. I think that it's going to be their aggressiveness is going to be focused on tight end, even though Evan Ingram finally made that impact that we had all hoped for, minus those couple drops early on in the game. So I still think they want to add a tight end. I think they want to add somebody with a little bit more versatility at tight end who can line up in line and upgrade over Adam Troutman and Nate Atkins and regulate Nate Atkins to that third tight end spot. And then wide receiver, I think they're going to be very aggressive trying to go get another guy to upgrade that number 2 spot and regulate, Troy Franklin's, Marvin Mims, Pat Bryant to that 3rd, 4th, 5th spot. And Mims being more so that 5th guy with specific usage on it. I wouldn't be surprised if they start looking at running back, but I think it's going to be a very offensive focused offseason with adding just key players at key spots on the defense, just because, well, they've extended almost everybody they needed to on the defensive side of the ball. Still a couple holes. You're going to be making one by letting John Franklin Myers walk, so you got to go get an answer there. I think that they'll look at a 1-year cheaper deal and hope that Savion Jones takes that leap to start in 2027. They start taking that leap in 2026. Maybe they add somebody else in the draft to start rotating that talent on the defensive line, which is always a smart thing to do. And then linebacker, but I think it's going to be very offensive focused. And on that note, I think with what we saw from Palczewski, I think it's very clear they should not cut Ben Powers. Palczewski was awful. And you talked about Payne being in the backfield a lot. Palczewski was the culprit of that most of the time.
Yeah, I know he beat Quinn a few times, but it feels like it's loud when it's Quinn because you don't expect it, right? Yeah. So it's like, oh man, not used to that. So
there was one play where Palczewski was just standing there looking around. Like there was one play where Palczewski was just like, and I just couldn't help but laugh. Like it was a bad play from Palczewski. He just got beaten. It's not like Payne's like a fast defender. Like he's a bigger dude, and he just ran right by Palczewski, just crossed his face to get into the backfield.
No, yeah, absolutely. Pearl says she's drinking her coffee now. Palczewski, he's been admirable holding on. I think he's a very valuable 6th, 7th, I won't make the joke, offensive lineman there for the Broncos. That wasn't even meant to be set up. It just came out. But yeah, as a starter, what we're seeing right now is his probably optimal role, right? Like it's like, yeah, you're competent out there right now. Like we're getting by, and hopefully we don't have to have you as a full-time starter. If they did, it would be something where you probably brought in a cheap veteran to compete with them, and then you have an option to go there in the draft as well, which you can do. So good to see a flying anger pig. I won't take the bait. I don't want Eric or Dylan to leave. We got Pearl in the house. I don't know if I already said hello to Pearl. Good to see you. And you brought on something. So not all negatives in this one. Of course, I want to highlight the guys who stood out in this one. While not a overly big stat sheet game. Again, another reason that I like EPA. I thought we had some big time catches from Courtland Sutton this one. So 5 for 62 and a touchdown is not an amazing bottom line like count statistics, but like every single one of those catches felt like it was third down, red zone, big down the field where they absolutely needed it. And he showed up and did it. And Evan Ingram, too, finishes the day statistically 6 receptions on 9 targets for 79 yards. I feel like they started 0 for 3. And it was like 3 kind of like not great throws from Bo Nix, but ones that like, Evan, come on, buddy, like pull that in. You're wearing number 1. Like it has to stand for something out there. I was watching the game with my buddies, like, why is he wearing 1? Doesn't that mean anything anymore? And it's like, I don't know. Right now we're 50-50 on if he's going to, even be back next season, given his cost and how little impact he has. But after that, if I'm right about him going 0 for 3 to start, he goes 6 for 6, 79 yards, a couple of really key contributions. And that one where he cooked Bobby Wagner in space and then looked like a freaking thoroughbred running down the seam. We've been missing that so much. They try for Yak in this offense. It just hasn't necessarily been there in the short game. We've seen it maybe they try in the screen game, but not necessarily the short game over the middle of the field. That was beautiful. So shout out to Evan Ingram. I was very discouraged after that 0-3 start. I know I tweeted out, shout out to him that last drive in the first quarter where he was big. I think 3 receptions in that one. And bouncing back because they needed him, obviously, in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it was great to see him. And not just him. I'm going to give a shout out to Adam Troutman as well.
Whoa, hold the phones.
Eric, I mean, if you want to talk about making some clutch catches, I think both of his or all 3 of his, I can't remember if he only had 2 or 3, were pretty clutch catches, like needed. I think all of them went for a first down, or one of them may have set them up for a shorter third down, but he came up big, and he came up big as a blocker too. Like that's the big thing, is he's there to be a blocking tight end, and he's been god awful up until this point. And this was one game where they had issues running the ball, yeah, but it's the first one where it's like those issues running the ball weren't strictly on Adam Troutman like it had been previous. So hat tip to him. And then, man, no one deserves, the bigger hat tip than Alex Singleton, not just for coming back after the surgery, and then the big play that he made to break up the pass. Like, man, it was great. And, he was another one where early in the season where we kept ragging on him a lot. He really started to bounce back, I think, around the Eagles game. And he's just been, showing that improvement and, getting better. Maybe it was, coming back from the injury that he was just, that took him a while to shake off that rust or what. But the negative impact that he was having, especially in coverage, hasn't been felt as much or in as big of ways. And then he comes up and makes that beautiful play to break up the ball. And, Briley Moss had a couple. There was a lot of great pass breakups by this defense where they weren't called for defensive pass interference. And with how the flags have flown against this defense, every single one of those deserves to be, highlighted, because, man, they were just beautifully done by Singleton, Moss, and Surtain.
Yeah, shout out to them. Amazing overall. And yeah, you're right. I again, watching it with a buddy last night. I was like, oh, Singleton, player of the game. Oh my God, that breakup. I mean, he was close on a few as well. And sometimes just the nature of it, like especially with Mariota hitting that like second layer middle of the field shot. Like you see the linebacker like turning back. It's like, oh, what the heck, linebacker? It's like, I don't know, man. He hit the whole shot. Like they're getting paid too. It was a good scheme and good design. And the offensive coordinator seemed to know, like, oh, I guess they're calling this coverage on this one. As long as our whole pass blockers can hold up, we got time. Happened rather continuously in this one, unfortunately. So hopefully the Broncos can figure out some things here. And again, come out of this game, run game, still a question mark. Defense, who knows, but you come out with a win. Again, shout out to Will Lutz. Also, again, another perfect game from him. And you did enough to win, hold on, survive, evaluate, and keep stacking. And I mean, think about how ugly beginning of the Titans week 1 was, the Jets, the monstrosity that was that Jets game. We're not even through the season yet, and those feel like, kind of faint, fuzzy memories, especially for NFL at large. Like maybe not as much for us because we're psychopaths who live and breathe by this team, but overall, it's like, oh, Denver's 10-2. Do you remember the Jets game? Oh yeah, that was an ugly one. Time passes, your record stands. You still get that dub. It doesn't matter if it's ugly or not. So is it sustainable? We're fixing to find out. We are going to start wrapping up here pretty soon. Thank you, Eric, for calling out Alex Singleton as well. I also wanted to call out Jaleel McLaughlin, or not Jaleel. Jaquan
Jaquan
McMillan.
McMillan.
Yes. Yeah. As soon as I said, I'm like, no, wrong. JM, of course. He had an awesome game in this one. I thought he was pretty good overall in run defense, and he had some really good coverage as well. And that slot spot, because it's a two-way go, is pretty hard. Now, granted, it's hard on the boundary as well when Denver plays as much single high man as they do. Why doesn't Moss have help? Well, they're playing cover one. He's not going to have help sometimes. But I thought J-Mac had a heck of a game as well, so he deserved a shout out. He didn't have the biggest hit of the day. That goes to, who was it? Santrastil on the other side. He had that big one on the day. That was incredible. But J-Mac had a heck of a game.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I think he's been probably the best corner for the Broncos so far this season. He's just been, continues to show, improvements every single week and getting better where he's at. And when you look at what he did last year, where there were some very obvious ways that you could attack McMillan, he had such an issue with double moves, especially where, they would get him moving to his left, the offensive right, and then they'd cut back. He really struggled with flipping his hips and turning with that. And this year, it seems like he really put the focus in and improvement and work into improving that. And he has. Hat tip to him. I mean, he's just gotten so much better. And, message was sent when they drafted Jahdae Barron that, his spot was at risk, and he took it to heart. He improved. And another one, he didn't make a lot of plays, but I want to give a shout out to Uwazurike. He came in and made a big play late in the game for this defense. Ended up not mattering because I think it was the overtime touchdown drive that they had, but it still mattered in the fact that it sent a message, and plays like that can, hype up the defense and give them that energy, especially when they're so drained at that point. And man, it was nice to see them be able to rotate the defensive linemen when they're so, down and exhausted, and have that reserve guy, your fifth guy on the line, come in and make a play.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do see Coach Chris coming in and say Hufanga looked awful last night. I know you mentioned it as well. I felt like he was pretty freaking awesome in the first half, but there was loud misses from him. I mean, he does lead the team in tackles in this one, which I know is not always the best indicator, but 10 solo from your safety, it's not exactly what you want. And 2 tackles for loss from your safety as well. So he had some big splash plays. I think couple pass defenses in the red zone as well. Again, there was a few misses here or there. That penalty where he got there late, I'd rather not even have a chance to get that DPI because your defensive lineman take down the quarterback, please. Somebody tackle, please. But yeah, overall, it's not bad. I come away on the defense, and my biggest 2 issues in this game for the Broncos in general, the offensive run game and the defensive run game, not their best game. Just some of the advanced stats. They get 0.09 rush per EPA, which is like 80th percentile on all rushes in this one. So Denver didn't do very well. And 30% of their runs went for first downs, Eric. I mean, that's a terrible number. And why was Denver's pass rush not able to pin their ears back? We did have some tackles for loss, but I feel like Mariota, extending plays with his legs and picking up first downs with his legs. And just in general, there was not as many chances to tee off because they were running the ball so darn effectively. I mean, again, the basic stats, not as good in my opinion, but 143 yards, giving up over 4 yards a clip on 33 rush attempts. You got to get off the field. You got to eat your vegetables on early downs and against the run in general and do better. And that wasn't necessarily the case in this one. Maybe you can point out something schematically as well. I didn't in the first watch, watching it in a social setting versus, in the lab by myself. Don't bother me. I'm locked in. But the missed tackling, I just keep coming back to that as well. That was very frustrating. It felt very Bills-esque where Denver was, meeting the guy or kind of bad tackle attempt and then, bounced off. There's another 10 yards.
Yeah, I mean, with Hufanga, I think the best way to sum up his game was boom or bust. Like there was making the big play, or he was, missing the tackle, out of position, or the penalties. Like boom or bust is the best way for him. But as for what the Commanders are doing, they negated the Broncos pass rush completely because of the quicker passing game. They weren't able to tee off on it, and then you had the fact that there's a couple times where I mentioned it earlier, Jonathan Cooper, he was going like he was doing a stunt or a twist and leaving that lane open for it. So when they did generate pressure, they gave that opening for Mariota to escape out of it. They did get 2 sacks on him, I think is what it was, maybe 3.
Two.
And so they got their hit. They got plenty of other hits. I mean, that interception play, I mean, he was Zach Allen was right there in his chest, and
he jumped.
So, and yeah, the jump shot. So they just did everything they could to negate the teeth of this defense, which is that defensive front with the running game. And hat tip to Chris Rodriguez, man, his contact balance is absolutely insane, and he's able to really bounce off of defenders and go make plays. And that was, part of it. Their offensive line, they have 4 good pieces on their offensive line, and jury's still out on Josh Connerly, who, man, he was consistently beaten. I mean, going back to Jonathan Cooper, I mean, if he was beating Connerly consistently as a pass rusher, and that led to, the overconfidence, the over, extending himself against the run for Mariota. So there was just a lot that they did. And, it was mentioned earlier about, and you mentioned that Cliff Kingsbury really out-coached Vance Joseph, which I don't disagree with, but I think this is one where you could really look at what the defense was doing and what the Commanders were doing and highlight one player specifically pretty consistently as a culprit for some of the big plays for it. And it was Cooper. And this was, man, talk about boomer bust, man. He had some big plays on Connerly, but just the lack of discipline from him, which is not typical from Cooper, was hard to see and very blatant against the Commanders.
Well, big news for Denver is that they got the first seed right now, and the Giants are going to be a tough matchup for the Patriots tonight. And Denver finding new and excruciating ways to win sometimes. So it's still, party vibe, and you got to have games like this, and nobody should make excuses for wins at the end of the day. If somebody wants to, question Denver, let them. I think it's fair to have some questions about them, but I think you should have questions about every single freaking AFC team. Somebody's got to come out of it, and if Denver's playing the majority of their games at home with the defense the way it is and the offense the way it is, and Sean Payton as well, I mean, you stack those 3 things, you got a chance in this AFC without an overwhelming team. So Denver sitting there 10-2. It is great. And again, an outlier game for this one for the Broncos defense. We talked about the red zone, the third down as well. Shout out to rbsdm.com. They do a advanced statistics game log, and everyone. Broncos have been one of the best fourth down teams in all football this season. They had one of the worst games anybody's had all season on 3rd and 4th down. The Commanders were 100% first down success rate, a first down rate in late down, 3rd and 4th down runs. Shout out to Mariota's legs on that. And even the pass game as well. Really, really successful. 47% on that. EPA per late down rush, 1.2 far. So 3rd and 4th down run, they were getting a point almost every time. Over a point every time they ran the ball. So I think Denver will figure something out with that. They've been so good against running quarterbacks this season in general. It was a little surprising to see them do that. I'm surprised the cage rush didn't work as well from this one. Maybe it's a Stranad being subbed out issue. I don't know. But they got time to look at the tape and figure it out. And again, at the end of the day, a win is a win. You keep stacking them. Do we want to see Denver play better? Answer some questions that we still have. Absolutely. But you got the win, and Bo Nix played good football. Great. I don't know if I'd say great. He had great plays, but Bo Nix played good football. He was very much a reason that you won this one. So feeling good about it on the whole, even if the results against a poor team don't show much confidence. It counts, man. It counts.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the point with Mariota. I think this was one where it seemed like they just completely forgot that Mariota can run the ball pretty well as a quarterback, because they just didn't account for it at all. And normally you see one of the linebackers kind of playing like a spy role on the quarterback that when they have those running capabilities, and we didn't see that at all. And Justin Stranad, maybe it is because he wasn't out there. Dre Greenlaw, outside of the interception, didn't play a great game. He was actually really bad in this one. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what it was, but it just seemed that they just were completely taken off guard by Mariota's running ability. And that might, them underestimating it might be why Cooper was not having that, the discipline that you need, the lane discipline. But as you said, a win is a win. It was a win. Denver managed to pull it off. They're sitting at 10-2. They're top of the AFC right now, and hopefully they stay that way with a Giants win. And the best thing is like they're in a position where they just got to handle their own business. and they don't have to rely on other teams winning or losing games in order to make it to the playoffs. They just keep winning games, keep managing to pull it off, and keep doing so while working on improving where those areas that they need to. They're in a great position right now with their record. They're in a great position with what they have on their table for the rest of the season. Just it's on them to go out there and close it out, which last 2 seasons have been an issue with Sean Payton, and it was an issue there late in his time with the New Orleans Saints. So hopefully they figure it out to where they can close out the season, just like they've closed out the games this season. Fourth quarter has always been so big for them. Well, we're in the fourth quarter of the season now.
Yeah, and I did want to come out to this point. Thanks for Fat Sertan as well. I'm stealing this one. It's my point now, not yours. But it's not just Bo Nix. But he does say Bo Nix looks unfazed in overtime. Give it to Mariota. The football weekend showed it's anyone's game. Iron sharpens iron. Let's keep stacking. Thank you so much, Fat Sertan. Love the picture. Thank you for supporting the show and coming in as we're just about to wrap up here. But yeah, 5 plays, 75 yards, touchdown on that overtime drive. Where was that? All game, but they looked brutally efficient on that drive from the run game to Bo Nix as well. So that was incredible. Awesome to see. And yeah, Bo Nix in the offense. I mean, when you look like that, it's like it's in there, like that drive was beautiful. That it doesn't get, I mean, obviously you could have one play that goes 75 yards, but like doing it in 5 plays that quickly, boom, 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 touchdown. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, touchdown. I was right. Right amount of booms. So that was awesome to see. So shout out to Fat Sertan for coming in for the super chat there and pointing out that Bo Nix and the Broncos offense in general there. I mean, people will talk about the Broncos letting the Commanders march. I almost said the wrong name. March down the field there at the end and give that touchdown. There was a little bit of flukiness in that as well on both sides. We'll call it what it is. The penalties extending things. Maybe a pick play by Terry McLaurin for that touchdown there at the end. But, it is what it is. They're kind of calling it rough on both sides. So shout out to the Broncos. Another holding on for dear life, kicking and screaming, whatever you want to call it. But it counts. That's a win. In Denver, 9 wins in a row, 10-2 top of the AFC. We haven't been here very often, so I wanted to let it savor a little bit. Hopefully, like your guys' leftover cold turkey sandwiches are savoring in your fridge right now.
And, real quick, I just want to get this. With the reffing and the complaining, there was missed calls. There were some questionable calls on both sides of it, but at least nothing was as bad as the Texans game. Was that the one where they very clearly missed the extra point and the refs called it good?
I didn't see that. No.
Yeah, it was very clearly wide right, and the refs came out with their arms up, signaling that it was good. And at least it wasn't anything that bad with the reffing in this one.
Yeah. Wow. I missed that. You have to send that to me on Twitter or whatever. I was, baby duty besides the Broncos game. I had to do my, pay my dues to go off and not have kid duty for the night last night. But very happy to see the Broncos win 9 in a row. First time that's happened in, God, I think since maybe 2012 for the Broncos. I don't think the 2015 team even had a 9-win winning streak. And while some of these wins haven't been overly convincing, the Broncos' 2 losses weren't overly convincing either, right? So they got a chance against anybody, any given game. And I trust this coaching staff and the lines of scrimmage and with how Nix is playing as of late that Denver can give a game against anyone. And I don't think, again, Eric, we got to go. I was thinking about this last night walking the dog. I know the media in general, the general talking heads, podcasters, whatever, will not give the Broncos credit for these overwhelming, everything's beautiful wins. But there has to be, and it's not aesthetically pleasing, so they won't talk about it. But there has to be some credit given for the Broncos never coming out there and totally laying an egg. Also, their worst games, their bottom ones are always so much higher. You don't have games like what we saw the Rams against the Panthers this season. Maybe you're not getting the games where they're blowing great teams out and it's everything is absolutely clicking. I don't know if we want to count the Commanders or the Bengals games for that, but the fact that they're worst games coming out where, crazy Justin Herbert won some crazy wins as well. You have a chance to win in the NFL when you keep every single game like that. So that a lot of credit to the Broncos and Sean Payton for that. People won't talk about it because it's not fun to talk. It's fun to see, to watch those ugly games, but they just don't have absolute stinkers. And in the NFL, when the margins are so thin, and the coaching margins, especially with how good they've been this season on the whole, you have a chance every freaking game. And that counts for a lot in my book.
Oh, yeah. It's great. Like you can question a lot of things about this defense. You can't question their mentality. You can't question the fight in them. You can't question their grit. And there's been some games this season where it looked like they were going to go out there and have, those complete stinker games. And they came out and, they kept fighting, they kept pushing, they showed their grit and their resilience and came out and didn't lay a complete goose egg out there. And as you said, it's not something that likes to get talked about because it's not pretty. The NFL media, they either love blowouts or they love the high scoring shootout games. Like they don't like those ugly, dirty wins that the Broncos have been getting this season. And it just leads to them just constantly questioning it. And well, you know what? I think the Broncos will take it. They like the narrative against them and, things are ugly and they like being doubted. And it's something that they're definitely using this year. I can't remember who it was, but a couple of weeks ago, one of the players talked about it. Like, just keep underestimating us because we just use that for additional fuel on for the fire. So, national media, go ahead and keep doing it. But the Broncos, as you said, they're doing something right to get these wins, and the fight in them, it's always there.
Winning in the margins, maybe not with the penalties. Didn't win the takeover one on this one, but feel like they have an edge. We got Troy Boer, last one coming in because we got to wrap up. $9.99. At some point, we need to earn our winning with room to improve into becoming a more consistent offense. But I'll take this play anytime at this point this season. It's going to be pretty hard for the Broncos to do that as long as the running game as I don't want to say DOA, but scattershot as it is post J.K. Dobbins. It's only a 2-game sample size, so still time to figure it out. There is some reason to hope for Harvey. Like there's flashes here and there, and they talk about, how he's built. Like there should be a little bit there. We saw a great, somebody in the chat brought it out as well, a great pass blocking rep for him as well, where Bo Nix evaded a guy, but Harvey read it and clipped him. And you don't get that play without him doing that. So, he's a rookie. I think if he was going to be, Jahmyr Gibbs for us, we probably would have seen a little bit more than by now, but he still has a chance to become a pretty good 1 or 2, and they need him to this season. If you talk about the offense and the room for improvement, more consistent, I don't want to put that all on Bo Nix. At this point, it's got to probably come from Harvey and the run game in general stepping up. So we'll see. They got 5 games to figure that out.
Yeah, it may not happen this season, but at very least, hopefully it happens next season. And with Harvey, throughout the game, they kept talking about how the Commanders, you can't have that pause. You just got to go. That's just got to be Harvey at this point. Because when he just goes, good things happen. But when he has that little bit of a pause in the backfield, waiting for a block to develop, sometimes, it's patience, but it's borderline over being too patient. Just got to go. Just go try to make something happen. I think that's where you're at this point. Just don't wait for the big hole. Don't wait for the, the explosive opportunity there because of that. Just go pick up what you can and just lower your head and start showing some power. I get at some point in the game, they talked about how Harvey's actually heavier than J.K. Dobbins. They made that comment. He's like 5 pounds heavier than J.K. Dobbins, apparently.
That can't be real. I mean, I believe you, but that's crazy.
I can't. I don't believe it, and that's just what they. I think Mike Trico said during the broadcast. I was like, "There's no way that's actually true," but they said it, and if that's true, well, we need to start seeing a little bit more power. We see it at times as a receiver. We just need to see it a little bit more as a runner. And my God, for once, can we see one of these running backs break a tackle? I don't think we've hardly seen it from Harvey McLaughlin. Breaking a tackle, running the ball. I'm not including Bidet in that because he only has 2 runs on the whole season. So, guys,
Eric, your video froze up on me. There we go. I saw you smacking the camera. Good for you. Like the Broncos smacked the Commanders there at the very end. Bonitto batting the ball away. A win's a win's a win. Appreciate everyone coming in. Follow Eric and I on Twitter. Eric's at Eric Trickle. I'm at Nick Kendall, MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle. We're at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. And as the ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share. Shout out to Perry West, David Carmelo, Denver Luke, David Youngkin. Hope you're doing well, David. Fat Sertan as well. And Troy Boer coming in, supporting the show on this Victory Monday. Broncos winners in 9 in a row, getting an overtime win on the last play of the game, and surviving, enduring. It's a long season, marathon, not a race, and you keep stacking wins. Let's go Giants as well. Let's get the Broncos getting I wouldn't say a stranglehold, but we're not playing tiebreakers or anything anymore. And the Patriots getting the bye week, I think, after this weekend, really would be great for the Broncos down the stretch. The Colts flailing here is now dropping to the 6th seed. So, I mean, we'll see. Denver still has plenty to take care of and some tough matchups coming up. Still with 3 of their last 5 games against playoff teams, and that doesn't include the Chiefs. So tough schedule still ahead, and you keep stacking. Maybe the haters are right. Great call by the haters if that's the case, but you got some games here, and keep stacking. And if you win your number 1 seed, let them keep doubting, making excuses. Maybe they'll be right in the end, but Denver's right now in as good a position as they've been in 10 plus years, and it's awesome. So appreciating that right now. With questions to answer still. Shout out Broncos. Thanks everybody again. Appreciate you, Eric. Good to see you. Shout out to Dylan in the background, keeping you all in line and keeping us on point. You guys have a great rest of your day. Happy Monday. Good luck with Cyber Monday today, whatever the heck it is. Always choose kindness and compassion. Happy holidays. Go Broncos.